guys. Hope your day is going good. Welcome back to my husband's office where I record these YouTube videos. My name is Tracy. I am trying to read a moderate amount of books and remind people that it's okay just to read a moderate amount of books, and I also just want to talk about them. This video is going to be the wrap-up of the books I read in June. I know you're all going to be very impressed. Very, very impressed because I read 3 books in June. Just to review the purpose of the wrap-ups, besides me bragging about all the many millions of books that I'm reading, is because I am doing the Read What You Own challenge, and I want to try to read every book that I own by next June. 1 year. There's 1 year. Up in the corner, it's going to be this corner or this corner. I haven't decided yet because I'm not editing the video yet. I am filming it. You're going to see a big red number pop up. It's going to be 80 starting out this video. 80 because I own about 60, like 55 to 60 books that I haven't read, but I go to book club every month at my local bookstore, and I go to author events sometimes that require, the ticket comes with the purchase of a book. And so I'm kind of giving myself some leeway of 2 books a month. So, we're gentle with ourselves. We understand that life is not black and white, but that's why the number is bumped up, because I just anticipate having a lot more. And if I buy new books and I put the counter up and down as I go through videos, I just think it's going to be confusing. So counter is starting at 80. This is our official starting number. And by the end of this video, it's going to be down to 77 because I read 3 books this month, which is really good for me. I'm super busy. I am a mom and I have a full-time job and I am always doing all sorts of stuff. So 3 books is really good for me. Anyways, let's get into the books and what I thought about them and how I rated them. Now, I do ratings on a very specific scale, and I kind of just want to go into it. Maybe I'll make a whole video sometime and do a graph or whatever. But I don't feel like I can gut rate things out of 5 very well, because some things I'll be like, oh my gosh, 5, I love this book so much. But it will be a bad book. It will be really badly written. So I have to in order to give myself a very fair estimation, I rate in a very specific way. So basically, what I do is I rate it out of 10 based on a couple of qualifications, and then I divide that, and that gives me my 1 to 5 rating. So, for example, we'll start with the first book. The first book that I read this month was The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. Actually, this is a bad one to start on because I gave it a really good review. I love this book. I really, really loved it. It was so great. The reason that I read it is because I occasionally will get into a headspace where I'm I just need some romantasy. So I asked some of my girls at book club and said, hey, can you recommend me this? I want enemies to lovers. I want it to be cool, not super cheesy or blah, blah, blah. One of my friends walked me over to the shelf, showed me this one, picked it up, I read it. Oh my word. First of all, there is something to be said for the subject matter in this book. I feel like it was very adult. I don't feel like it was a romantasy that was kind of masquerading as a YA, and I'm not talking about smut or anything. I'm talking about this is going to sound crazy. I loved the violent aspect of this book. Let me tell you the premise. So we have our main girl. She is the adopted daughter of the head honcho vampire king. And she, like we do in many fantasy books, is soon to be entering a gauntlet, a competition of sorts, to get a wish from a goddess. That's our basic main thing, is she wants to make a wish to be a vampire, in simple terms, I guess. And she's fighting against all of these other different vampires who also want a wish. So, in true Hunger Games fashion, there is just a great deal of violence, because obviously it's battling to the death. I think I liked it because it wasn't just oh, and then Susie stabbed Tommy and he died, or Margot used her magical fire and burned up all the other contestants. It's just a little bit more descriptive than that, which made it feel a lot more substantial than just like, oh, this is just another romantasy book, it's just another fantasy. It was very substantial in like that it was darker, it felt very fleshed out, all of the minor characters felt very fleshed out. And then the love story is very wonderful. It's like a meet cute, obviously enemies to lovers, really, oh my gosh, really fantastic ending to the book. I'm sure most of you have read this, but I can't recommend it enough. And I honestly don't, maybe I'm just like not in all the book talk circles, but I don't see it recommended a ton. I don't know, maybe I just haven't seen it, and like now that I've read it, I'll start to see it more. But I used to recommend to people if they would like want a segue into the romantasy world to like understand it. I would obviously tell people ACOTAR because first of all, it's very popular and very well known, so that's kind of like a good baseline. This, I feel though, Carissa Broadbent, and to be honest, I've only read this first one, and I don't know how many of the other ones I'm going to read before next year due to my book challenge, but I might recommend this one first because it's not, I feel like the romantic aspect is there because we're expecting it, right? So like you can kind of pick up on those nuances and stuff. But like even if there wasn't romance, like even if there wasn't like a spicy scene or two, this would still be a pretty fantastic book. Oh my gosh, here's what it is. Carissa Broadbent does a really good job of world building in a way that is not information overload, but it's also very clear. Like she's not trying to explain to me like minute politics that will kind of add to my experience of reading the book, but she also doesn't gloss over things that like should be important, right? Like I feel like I get the geography, I feel like I get the political intrigue and like the kind of the class system and like how people feel about each other, but she does that through telling the story instead of just like telling me as the narrator, you know? Let's go back to my rating system. Obviously, I really enjoyed this book. So I rate this book, The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent, a 5 out of 5 on my enjoyment scale. I really, really loved it. Then, writing scale wise, and writing is difficult because like obviously, you know, you read a Hemingway, you read a romantasy, both can be good writing even if they're not the same style or the same era. I think that Carissa Broadbent was a 5 on this book, writing-wise. So what does that mean in terms of scoring? This one is kind of like pretty easy to do on my rating scale, but 5 on enjoyment and 5 on writing means that for me, on my personal scale, it gets 10 out of 10. This is a 10 out of 10 book. Would recommend. I'd recommend it to people who don't even like romantasy. I'd recommend it to people who don't like vampire books. I would recommend it to anybody who wanted like an exciting and, you know, good female fighter, strong lead kind of book. Anyways, I digress. To reach the Goodreads scale, we have to divide 10 by 2, and which makes it, oh my gosh, it's a 5. So Goodreads, Fable, regular book rating scale, I give this book 5 out of 5. I loved it, and it was already owned by me, so look at this. Oh my gosh, my counter. It went down by 1. Oh my gosh, we've begun the Read What You Own challenge. Oh, the warm and fuzzies. I love it. Good stuff, good stuff. Alrighty. Book number 2 for this month was my book club read, and it was This Is How You Lose the Time War. Now, I already owned this book because you know what? People love this book. It's very good. There are 2 authors. I have a pea brain, so I'm going to list the authors below. Wow, here they are. Here's the authors right here. They're great. But yeah, this book is super popular. I don't remember exactly. It only came out like a handful of years ago, and everybody loved it. I don't know if it was like Book Talk popular. I feel like I kind of saw it on there, but just like in the bookstore literary world, this was a very, very widely enjoyed book. That being said, it's so short, right? I've had it forever. It's such a short little book. It could almost be a novella. So I thought I was going to get through it really quickly. That was not the case. It was kind of slow to get through. And I think a lot of people going into the book, they know like the basic premise and it sounds really cool. This is a sci-fi book, so you can expect like all the normal kind of tropey things and details and technology and all that stuff. But the mode in which it's delivered is kind of unique. This is basically like an epistolary of letters. There are these two mega super warrior cyborg women who are like the head of their respective armies, and the two factions are engaged in a war and, you know, fighting each other. And the war is spanning across like the braids, that's what they call it. It's spanning across the braids of time. So there'll be like millions of years in the past and thousands of years in the future, and they're climbing up braid and down braid to do all these different things. And their objective is to kind of like do these nuanced little things like plant a flower or save somebody from Pompeii that will like affect the course of the greater future. There's not much more into like the world than that. You don't really know what the point of the war is, but the book is comprised of letters that these two warriors write to each other, and you see them kind of fall in love throughout the course of these letters. That's what you know is happening. I don't know if it's because it's sci-fi or what. It is hard to get through. I think if I didn't know, like if I just went into it blind, like, oh, this looks cool, I'm gonna read it, it might be a little confusing because the writing itself is very poetic. It's very dense. It's the kind of thing where it's like you read a few sentences and then you're like, wait, I feel like I got the feeling of that, but I have no idea what they just said. You know, I think that's purposeful. Obviously, it's sci-fi. A lot of sci-fi is dense like that. So I did think it was kind of hard to read, which I think kind of like hurt my enjoyment. Now, by no means do I think this was poorly written. Actually, on writing, I give it a 5 out of 5 because it is very smart. It's very interwoven in clever ways, and I personally feel like there weren't a lot of like plot holes or loopholes because any information that was left out was pretty masterfully covered, or like I knew it wasn't important. And the characters are really good. You know, despite them supposedly being just like these war machines, they're very good characters. But yeah, it was hard to read. I'm not going to say hard to read in a way that the classics were, but it was just very dense. Dense is probably the best word I can use for it, which is, you know, it would surprise you if you went in blindly to such a small book and you were like, oh, this is going to be about two women falling in love across all odds, across time and space and the Time War. But really, it's more observational. I don't know. It's hard to describe. In terms of enjoyment, I think I'd probably give this one a 3. Well, actually, I think I'd probably give it a 2 on my personal scale out of enjoyment, because I don't think I'd read it again. If I did read it again, it'd probably be because somebody asked me to, or like for analyzation, not because I was like, oh, I just crave to get back into this story. So 5 on writing, 2 on enjoyment. I think sometimes when things are really well written in that kind of poetic way, sometimes to me they're not as enjoyable. I think that's okay. Maybe later in life when I'm smarter, I will be like, wow, these girls writing letters to each other through water molecules and burning lava, I get it. It is a really cool book. Like, don't get me wrong, it's so cool. I think it's worth reading once. I just wouldn't reread it, and it was not my personal preference. So 5 on writing, 2 on enjoyment. That gives us a 7 on the Tracy scales, and that is a 3.5. 3.5 in the scales of the rest. Not a bad score, about average. I think I just thought it would be a 5 because it was so freaking popular. But, you know, you can't judge a book by its online reviews. But do you see what I'm saying about, like, my review system? I think we need to be rating things on a scale of 10 all the time, because 5 is not enough. And I, like, gut feeling, if you said rate this book 1 out of 5, I probably would gut feeling just give it, like, a 2. But in reality, I thought it was higher because I thought the writing was very good, even though I didn't enjoy it. And, like, gut feeling, you tend to just go towards enjoyment, right? So I don't know. I just think this is a more accurate way. Maybe you have your own ranking system. I'd love to hear about it. Drop it in the comments. Link me to your videos. I'd love to see it. Okay, last but not least, and let me tell you, spoiler alert, I thought it was going to be least. The last book I read this month was The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. I enjoyed it way more than I thought I was going to. after I read like the first 10 pages. I have to tell you, I read the first 10 pages of this book and I went to my father, who's like my reading buddy. Like we always talk about our books. I went to him and I said, oh boy, I think this one's gonna be a doozy, because I did not think the writing and the setup were like very good. I didn't think they were very like, it was reading like middle grade. Like, you know, when you're reading a middle grade book and you like kind of, you like let a lot of things slide and you're like, oh, okay, this is like very simple setup, obviously because, you know, 12-year-olds are reading it. Just felt like that. It maybe at the least is like a YA. It could be a YA. It's a cozy fantasy. I definitely would put it in more of the adult category, but it could easily be YA. I don't know for sure. The lines are so muddy, right? But yeah, I read the first little bit of it, and just based on how the writing style was, I was just like, oh, I do not know if I'm going to like this very much. Because like, I don't know, I can get kind of cynical sometimes. I think we all can. But let me tell you, I just kept reading. I sucked up my pride as someone who just reads books. I don't write books, but I sucked up my pride and I kept reading, and it was delightful. It was such a delight. Do I think it was the best writing I've ever read? No. But did I really enjoy it? Was I happy while I was reading it? Was I engaged while I was reading it? Yes, I was. The only thing that I will say that I thought was so silly about this book, and it's not a little thing either, is that the plot line very heavily relies on an aspect of a mythical creature that is called a merhorse. And listen, it is fantastic. If Miss Durst ever watches this video, probably won't. Let it be known, I think it's fantastic. It was so hard for me to swallow at first because they are so silly. Picture this. Picture a beautiful, glistening mermaid tail on the bottom half, or the back half, I guess, because it's horses. But the front half is also a beautiful horse. And they kind of gallop and swim through the water. Isn't that so silly? I thought it was so silly. I like told my friends, I was like, you guys would not believe we have mer babies, we have mer horses. This is like so crazy, so funny. But the book isn't like a giant comedy. You know, it's cute, it's cozy, there's a little bit of romance. The main character is like finding herself. Pretty simplistic plot, but again, very cozy read, very creative. Even though I thought the mer horses were so unique, that's kind of what kept me engaged. It also helps that this is like a very involved fantasy, but it takes place on an island, which is really cool. Let me tell you the premise so you know what I'm talking about after I've already talked about it. Spell Shop is about a girl who is a librarian in the big imperial city, but then a revolution happens and she basically has to flee with a bunch of illegal spell books that she took from her section of the library, and she sails out to the outer islands of the kingdom, back to her hometown, and then, you know, she wants to be a recluse. She doesn't want to talk to anybody, but she has a really cute neighbor, and she meets really nice friends, and she ends up, like, revitalizing the island, and it's very cute. It's very nice, like, warm-hearted read. It's kind of giving like the cozy feeling of like a small town Western romance. In no way was this book like done and dusted, but like the cozy feeling that you feel on like Rebel Blue Ranch, that's kind of what I got from this book. So it's very cozy and fun. If you want something that is super easy to read and super relaxing to read, like I didn't feel like I had to stress out about it. It's very sweet. It has beautiful but simple imagery. Also, the paperbacks and the hardcover have like these lavender sprayed edges, and maybe that's part of the reason I bought it in the first place. Could be. But I don't regret it. I really liked it. Honestly, this is a book that I could see like if I ever have a daughter, she'd be like 14 and I'd be like, "Hey, this is so fun. This is really good." This could honestly, if this was a series, it could be like the Goose Girl of a generation. It's a good book for the girls, you know? I really liked it. It was a little predictable, the plot. I think that was probably purposeful. You know, some books are not written to, you know, make your brain explode. Some books are just written to be nice. I'm learning that right now. Out of 5 on enjoyability, I would give this book a 4. It was a little predictable plot-wise, and there were just some silly elements that I could not get over. The main character has blue skin, which was hard for me to picture. Honestly, put more fan art online, people. I need to see more fan art. It helps me to know. I don't care if it gets spoiled. I need the fan art. Anyways, 4 on enjoyability. And then writing, I would probably... See, this is so hard because I don't want to be overcritical of writing when I feel like it's deliberate. Like, I do feel like it was deliberately simple, but at the same time, there were like a lot of metaphors and phrasings that were reused. Like, to give you a similar example, I'm sure we all know when we read ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses, Sarah J. Maas loves the term watery bowels. And she uses it like 5 times in that book. It's so crazy. Like, once is fine, but then it's just like, oh my gosh, think of a different way to describe diarrhea, right? And that would like knock it down on rating for me. This book kind of had a similar thing where it was repetitive in like its descriptions, and it talked about things a lot. Like, things were like, we kept seeing this one bird the whole time. I don't want to be overly critical though, because I did really enjoy it. You know, I really enjoyed it. It was a 4. But writing, I think I'm going to give it a 3. A generous 3. Something is telling me to give it a 2, but I don't think it was badly written, so I feel like I can't knock it down past the neutral threshold. So we're going to go with a 3. Do you feel this way when you're ranking books? Do you feel like you don't want to give something a rating that will, like, people will question you on? I totally feel like that. I don't know. I need to just like the things I like and don't like the things that I don't like. Anyways, it's a 3. 4 plus 3. That gives it a 7 on my personal scale, which oddly enough is exactly the same as This Is How You Lose the Time War. So it has a 3.5 at the end. See, and if you look at it, if like you look at it and you say, what? The Spell Shop, this simple cozy fantasy, and This Is How You Lose the Time War, a critically acclaimed sci-fi book about LGBT romance. Like, how are those two the same rating? But they are. It all makes sense. There's reasons, there's roots. That's why I rate the way I do. Anyways, that's my whole spiel on that. If you've read these books, please tell me about them because I want to know what you think. I liked the books I read this month. I feel like I got a good variety. I'm liking it. We took the number down a little bit, wherever it may be. It was a good reading month. I hope you guys are reading some good things this month. I'm really looking forward to July because I got a lot of things planned. I'm going to try to read like 5 books, and I think you'll just find out about them on the reading wrap up. So if you want to, you can follow my dad and I on Instagram, Looking Forward to a Good Book. That's where you can find the link to our podcast as well. He's so much smarter and so much funnier than me. You got to listen. He's hilarious. Thank you for watching. And thank you for keeping me accountable as I read through all the books I own and try to make reading a hobby again and not a chore. Okay, I will see you later, alligators. Bye-bye.